So I'm really happy to be here. It's interesting that I was asked to speak on wholeness because last year I handwrote 200 pages of my personal story, my as yet unfinished memoir, so to speak. And the title of it is Greater Than the Sum of My Parts, My Journey Toward Wholeness Through Addiction, Cancer, and Prison. Re-examining that title more closely, I thought about what wholeness meant to me. And my first reaction was that it means not feeling like something's missing, not feeling like something in me needs to be fixed. It's the process of coming to understand that I'm enough, that there's nothing lacking in this moment. I think sometimes that wholeness is a habit of mind. Gary Zukav said, "The journey to wholeness requires that you look honestly, openly, and with courage into yourself, into the dynamics that lie behind what you feel, what you perceive, and how you act, so that you can experience consciously the nature of your personality, face what it has produced in your life, and choose to change it." Well, that's no quick and easy task. That takes a lot of time, a willingness to experience pain, and some emotional space. Fortunately for me, prison provided that time and space, and that's what I did. I looked honestly into myself and the pattern of endless craving that I had allowed myself to become stuck in. I had come face to face with what it had produced in my life. I had lost everything. I was ripped away from my precious dog, Petey, the closest thing I have to a child. I lost my house, my car. All of my decades-long friendships had unraveled. And now I could clearly see the hurt, the disdain, and the disappointment in the faces of my closest family. It wasn't a pretty picture when I looked at what I had been valuing and how my thoughts and actions reflected this. And then I chose to change. I choose life. I choose to respond with love and to make peace of mind my top priority. The process of becoming whole also demanded that I stop being so attached to my preferences. I started taking full responsibility for my feelings and my emotions, and I stopped letting the external circumstances rule me. Let me tell you, that's a real challenge in prison. It's uncomfortable. I started embracing uncertainty and discomfort. My mentor once told me that if you're not experiencing some sort of moral struggle on a regular basis, then you're not on a path of spiritual growth. I was relieved. I felt like, okay, good. I can stop worrying about it. It's supposed to feel like this. I don't have to try to get it to stop being uncomfortable. I don't have to fix that part of it. To become whole, I also had to make friends with myself and accept all the parts of me. I had to make friends with my past to change my future, to accept my past and never repeat it. So what does it mean to accept? And how do we do it? It means to sit inside your own pain and look at it with eyes wide and not look away. To let yourself feel it fully and deeply. To notice that knot of regret in your stomach. To taste your tears of sorrow. And after a while, you find yourself processing that pain. You listen to it scream so loud it's deafening. And just when you think you can't take it anymore, it's not as loud. In fact, it's growing softer into something not as sharp, into something that you can hold gently in your hand. You realize that its power to harm you is dissipating. You realize that your pain is not you. I realized that my bad decisions, addiction, and the harm I had caused were not me. I know that I am not number 1872541. And I understand each day is an opportunity for me to choose something good. And I appreciate that opportunity. Aristotle said that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. One thing he was referring to was the synergy of a system. For me, the synergistic force is gratitude. Most of my life, I felt no gratitude. Long before my addiction, when I was actually a productive member of society, I used to sit at the Thanksgiving table, inwardly rolling my eyes, and I would think of something to say I was grateful for. I had worked hard to create the life I had. I had a college degree, I owned a business. I did that. I made that life. Why should I be grateful? Then, after I became an addict, gratitude had no place in my life at all. So, further along my journey in prison, I received a cancer diagnosis after a months-long war for medical attention. That took me to the edge of my emotional stability. It was a very dark period for me. Finally, I had the blessing of grueling chemo and radiation treatments that required 12-hour-long handcuffed travel and day after day in an overcrowded prison hospital holding cell. I did this Monday through Friday, week after week, and that's where I discovered gratitude. I began using it almost as a defense mechanism. I started focusing on feeling gratitude, searching for something positive to grasp onto like a life preserver every day. I would say, oh, the handcuffs aren't cutting off my circulation today like they were yesterday. Or I would say, we may be padlocked in a cage in a transport van, but at least I don't have to pee. And I meant that. These days, it's my go-to spiritual practice, and it is a practice. It doesn't come naturally most of the time. I get caught up in my daily stress, my dramas that we create, being rushed, overthinking. We all do. Feeling thankful seems like wishful thinking. And that's why I have to remember that it's part of my self-care regimen. It must be grown and attentioned. I have to direct my consciousness to create the feeling of gratitude. Plus, it does all kinds of good stuff for your chemicals in your body. Speaking of gratitude, I'm so grateful that I now see myself as one part of this whole, this fellowship. Thank you for accepting me as one golden thread in an amazing tapestry that is this community. I'm honored to weave myself into it. Together, we truly are greater than the sum of our parts. Thank you.
Please take a moment to look at these images and think about which of them is a better representation of wholeness. Stop there. The first two images, the puzzle pieces, were created by non-autistic people, also known as neurotypical people, to represent people on the autism spectrum. The third and fourth images were created by actually autistic people to represent neurodiversity. Click. Today's theme is wholeness amid difference, and April is Autism Awareness Month. So I chose to use this time with you today to dispel some of the myths about autism and to invite you into a greater understanding and acceptance of people on the autism spectrum. I have only a few minutes to speak with you today, and really I would need several hours or even days to share with you what I would like to on this topic. So I'm going to be throwing a lot of information at you in a very short amount of time. Even so, please be aware that the ideas I share with you today are only a few drops from a vast ocean yet to be explored. Hi, my name is Amanda, and I'm autistic. And this is Walter, my emotional support animal for the day. Like many autistic adults, I didn't grow up knowing I was autistic, but I knew that I was different in ways I could not understand or explain. 10 years ago, I attended a training on neurodiversity. When I left that training, I was sobbing. Not from pain or shame, but from joy and relief. Finally, someone explained the diverse workings of an autistic mind, and I recognized, for the first time, descriptions of how I think and feel and experience the world, and I began to get a glimpse of the why. I'm not an expert on autism, and I don't claim to speak for all autistic people. I am only one autistic person speaking from my own experience and sharing information I've gathered over the last 10 years from other autistic people with varied ages and experiences and from different places in the world. Click. Oh. So myth number 1, autism can be cured. Autism is not a disease or an illness. It cannot be cured. Doctors and scientists and diagnosticians across the world and even across state lines cannot agree on a definition of autism, and the diagnostic criteria are constantly changing. While research on autism and the neurological differences is still in the early stages and mostly conducted on male children by non-autistic adults, current research indicates that the nerve cells and synapses in the autistic brain are organized in a different way and as a result process information differently. Click. Click. For each autistic person, these processing differences will manifest uniquely. If you think about it, an Apple computer and a PC have different operating systems, but they process information in completely different ways, but both of them can still be fully functional. In the same way, autism is not a processing error, it is a different operating system. Our brains are wired differently. Click. Which brings me to myth number 2, autism is a disability. While some autistic people do have mental and or physical disabilities, and these disabilities may or may not be related to their autism, autism does not equal disability. Click. Autistic people come in all different colors, genders, shapes, sizes, and abilities. While some autistic people do struggle, many of these difficulties are related to living in a world that is often overstimulating to the senses and largely designed and organized around social constructs created by neurotypical people. Click. In spite of the difficulties, when asked if there were a cure for autism, most autistic people would reject it outright, and only a few would actually choose it. Most of us enjoy aspects of our autistic traits and would not want to give them up. Click. While living with autism can be challenging, autism can also come with gifts. Just hang out there for a while. Not only for our own benefit, but for the world. Much of the art, music, science, and technology in the world would not exist without autistic minds. Items that most of us use daily are here because of autism. Anyone here have a cell phone? Autism. This leads to myth number 3. All autistics are either geniuses or savants. Not true, living proof. right here. Autistic people have varied intellectual abilities. Not all of us are brilliant. Myth number 4, autism is something new. Autistic people have existed throughout human history. Only the term autism is new. Archaeological evidence of autism is found in cave drawings dating back 33,000 years. While it is difficult to determine accurately the brain activity of someone from the past, surviving biographical information leads experts to believe that these people, among others, were likely to be on the autism spectrum. Michelangelo, Sir Isaac Newton, Benjamin Banneker, Henry Cavendish, Thomas Jefferson, Mozart, Charles Darwin, Emily Dickinson, Lewis Carroll, Nikola Tesla, James Joyce, Albert Einstein, Ludwig Wittgenstein, Barbara McClintock, Alan Turing, Andy Warhol. More recent autistics you might recognize include Steve Jobs, Marty Balin, Bill Gates, Satoshi Tajiri, Tim Burton, Daryl Hannah, Jerry Seinfeld, Woody Allen, Dan Aykroyd, Sir Anthony Hopkins, Courtney Love, and the list goes on, and time grows short. Wait, time can't grow short. Okay, wait, that's for another time. So, now we arrive at myths number 5 through 55 or something. The great mystery, what causes autism? If you Google it, you'll find everything from refrigerator moms to genetics to pesticides to vaccines, and the list goes on. Now I will unveil the mystery and reveal to you the true cause of autism. Click. Sex. Click. Yes, all autistic people are born as a result of sex. 2 or maybe more people come together and copulate, conception happens, and so on, and an autistic child is born. Seriously, to date, there are no known biological markers for autism. Click. I'm almost out of time, but please consider this. Trying to cure us, fix us, change us, or assimilate us will not create wholeness in any of us. Accept us as we are for who we are. Click. Autism is a natural variation of the human experience. If you want to understand or support or include autistic people, ask autistic people how they want to be understood, supported, and included. Click. Before I understood my own neurological differences, I felt like that puzzle piece you saw in the beginning, never quite fitting in anywhere. Through learning about my differences and processing my processes, I realize I am whole amid difference. Click. And click. Please join me in celebrating autism acceptance. Thank you.